Hi, Mark here, continuing with I come in the volume of the book. Last time we saw Jesus in the name of Joshua. Now we will see Jesus in the scene between Joshua and a man. All right, and we'll find out who that man is. So, I read from Joshua chapter 5 and verse 13. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho. When Joshua was by Jericho. The Hebrews have just crossed with the ark through the Jordan waters, held back just like Moses. They arrive in the promised land. Jericho, a formidable walled city. That's all I'll say about it. If you go into the history of Jericho, this was a fortress, a huge fortress. 15-foot to 30-foot high tell, or that is mounds that went around. And then on the top of those mounds were the stone walls and so forth. This was a formidable challenge for Joshua. And here he is musing how to go about this. And here's what happens. It came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man stood opposite him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said to him, Are you for us or for our adversaries? And he said, No, but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. No, it's as simple as that. The commander, this man commander, is rebuking Joshua. And there is all kinds of speculation that we can enter into, and I want to cut right through it and not even go there. All right? So, first, the scene is recorded as an actual appearance. All right? The scene is not a vision or a dream. It is not a epiphany or a theophany cloaked or mysterious. There is no burning bush that isn't consumed. There's no radiant glory. Simply, a man appears with a drawn sword. Simply, Joshua approaches the man without any hesitation. He's not afraid. He just approaches him. You've got two warriors who meet. Joshua asks a reasonable question. Are you for us or are you against us? Actually, he said, Are you for us or for our adversaries? One and the same. The man answers, No. But as commander of the army of the Lord, I emphasize that word, I have now come. Then Joshua falls on his face. Boom. Stretches out before him and worships this man. What happened? Joshua recognized in the commander's voice who he was. When he recognized in the commander's voice the power that was in the man's voice was the power of Adon. This is the voice of Adon or Adonai, my Lord, coming out of the man who appears to be every much just like Joshua. Strong's Concordance, this is number 113. And the word is Adon, meaning this is the God of complete and utter sovereignty. And this is what drove Joshua to collapse before this man. Interesting. The man answers, no, but as commander of the army of Adon, I have now come. Joshua goes down, realizing who is before him. This man is God in human form. We know who Joshua realizes who he is, and we realize, you and I, who this man is. And it is safe to say this man is God himself, Jehovah. What does my Lord Jehovah, Yahweh, the self-sufficient God, say to his servant? That is what Joshua, while on his face, said. I'll repeat it. So he said, no, but as the commander of the army of the Lord, I've now come. Joshua fell on his face to the earth and worshipped him and said to him, what does my Lord say to his servant? What does my, not Adon, but what does my Yahweh Jehovah say unto my servant? And the commander, the captain of the army, did not rebuke Joshua at this point. So we know that Joshua heard the voice of God in the voice of the commander. In other words, Joshua used deific language, and he was not rebuked for using deific language. So Joshua realized who he was addressing: God himself, the Word eternal, Yeshua Jesus, pre-incarnate. Without glory, just as a man. We can assume that the man who stood before Joshua, sword drawn, was in the same appearance as Jesus later, as incarnate, the incarnated Christ, in human, very God, very man, is here appearing before Joshua. Now, why the word no? Again, without speculation. The commander says, Christ says to him, actually, can I say Christ at this point? Yeshua says to him, at this point, no. I'm not for you, Joshua. I'm for Israel, of course, but I'm not for you, and I want you to understand this. This is my battle. This is my controversy. I am going to give you this land, but I am taking the land away from the inhabitants of the land, away from the Canaanites. I'm taking the land away, and we've discussed this because God had already spoken to Abraham 430 years earlier that God would bring judgment upon the Canaanites, and history bears out the reason, which is they were offering their children to Moloch and so forth, and dishonored God by doing so. So here, 430 years later, when Israel is numbered enough, 2+ million, they can enter the land and they can conquer it under the supervisory provisions under the obedience, under the grace, if you would, of the commander-in-chief. This is God's battle that Joshua and Israel are a fraction of. And we particularly see this when in their first confrontation, crossing Jordan, the first confrontation, Israel, the Hebrews, Joshua does not lift the sword as they march around the walls. They don't do a thing. They just do what the angel, they just do what Yeshua tells them to do. And by the walls collapsing and the walls coming down, the power of the spoken word goes out of Yeshua. The walls come down just like the same power that established light on the first day. Same power, same God. Joshua, I want you, and here is our lesson. Joshua, I'm in charge. You're not. You are a part of, but you are only a part of. You are a fraction of this battle of light against dark. You are not the center of attraction, Joshua. Keep me the center of attraction. Keep me. Hold me up. Let me do the fighting, and you do as I tell you to do. This is pretty good advice for you and I. God loves you. God bless us. Mark.